I never thought I'd end up in a showdown with a homeowners association, let alone over a bunch of apple trees. Hell, I moved to Willow Creek to get away from noise, drama. People poking their noses where they don't belong thought I'd found my slice of quiet, just me and my orchard. But man, was I wrong. 'Cause sometimes trouble finds you no matter how far out you plant your roots. My name's Tom Hargrove, retired after 30 years wrangling red tape for the state's agricultural department, mostly making sure farmers didn't get screwed over by bad policy. I'm a widower, got a couple grandkids I see when I can, and all I wanted was a patch of dirt to call my own, a little farmhouse on the edge of town, and 40-some apple trees that'd give me something to fuss over besides my creaky knees. Willow Creek seemed perfect small, sleepy, the kind of place where folks wave from their porches and don't ask too many questions. My land sat just outside the HOA's grip, close enough for their joggers to see my trees from their fancy trail, but far enough that I figured I'd stay off their radar. I spent the first year clearing out junk old tires, rusted barbed wire, you name it, turning that overgrown mess into something alive. By year 2, those trees were pumping out apples so sweet they'd make you forget your own name. I set up a little stand by the road. Nothing big, just a table with a sign. Take what you need, pay what you can. Kids would stop by with their parents, scribbling thank you notes, leaving $1 or $2, sometimes a jar of homemade jam. One lady left a note that said, "Your apples make my pies sing." That's the kind of place I thought this was. Then came Linda Voss. She rolled into town like a storm cloud in high heels, all sharp smiles and sharper words, the kind of person who'd complain about the sun setting too loud. She'd walk her yappy little dog past my place every morning, staring at my orchard like it personally offended her. I didn't think much of it at first. Some folks just don't like the smell of mulch or the sight of a guy in a beat-up flannel hauling crates. But then the letters started showing up. Not from the county, not from the city, but from the Willow Creek HOA, addressed to resident in this snooty, official-looking font. The first one was all polite venom. Your property's appearance raises concerns about community standards. I chuckled, tossed it in the trash, and went back to pruning. Then another came, whining about unauthorized commercial activity. That one made me sit up. I'd written half the AG codes for this county. I knew my land was zoned exempt for small-scale stuff like my stand. I wasn't running a Walmart out here, just sharing apples with neighbors. But I could feel the noose tightening. One morning, Linda showed up in person, arms crossed, standing at the edge of my driveway like she owned it. "You need to take that stand down," she snapped. Not even a hello. "It's an eyesore, and it's dragging down property values." I wiped the sweat off my brow, tipped my hat, and said, "Morning to you too, ma'am." She didn't blink. "This is a neighborhood, not a farm," she said, voice like ice. "If you want to play Old MacDonald, go do it somewhere else." I kept my cool, told her my land's been zoned AG since the 60s, that I wasn't selling to stores or throwing ragers just giving away apples. She didn't budge, just said, "The HOA has rules, and we enforce them." That's when I knew she wasn't just annoyed, she was on a mission. Some folks build their whole personality on control, and when they can't have it, they get mean. The letters kept coming, each one thicker, fancier, larded with fake legal jargon about adjacent land compliance and visual cohesion. They gave me 21 days to shut down my stand or face a compliance hearing. I laughed, not a happy laugh, but the kind you let out when you see someone trying to scare you with a paper tiger. I'd spent decades dealing with real regulations, not this HOA nonsense. So I dug out my old Files County zoning maps, permits, all the stuff I'd helped write in, sent them a letter back, dry as dust. "My land's outside your jurisdiction, per state statute 4721. Any further action will be considered harassment. Regards, Tom Hargrove." I thought that'd shut it down. Nope. Linda went nuclear. Flyers started showing up in mailboxes, bold red letters screaming about strangers at the fruit stand. And is our neighborhood safe? Safe from what? The kids sketching bees under my trees? The old couple who'd picnic by the Cortlands every Sunday? She was painting me as some kind of shady drifter, and it stung when folks I'd known for years started looking at me sideways. My neighbor Ellie, who used to bring me cookies, stopped waving. The church group that held bake sales nearby canceled without a word. Then the cameras showed up little motion sensor ones zip-tied to the HOA's trail fence, pointed right at my orchard. When I asked about them, they said it was for wildlife monitoring. When I took one down, they sent a letter threatening me for tampering with HOA property. I started keeping a log every flyer, every letter, every glare from Linda as she filmed me from the trail. I wasn't mad yet, but I was getting there. Things hit a boiling point one crisp October morning. I was setting up for a school field trip, third graders, their teachers, a few parents, all excited to pick apples and hear about pollination. The bus rolled up, kids giggling, and then 2 cop cars pulled in behind, lights flashing. My stomach dropped. Linda was there by the fence, phone out, smirking like she'd just won the lottery. The officer, a guy named Daniels, stepped out, all business. "Sir, we got a call about unauthorized commercial activity involving kids. Can we talk?" I looked at the bus, the kids' faces pressed to the windows, then at Linda, and I kept my voice steady. "Sure, officer, but you might want to run my name first." He scribbled it down, Tom Hargrove, and his partner tapped it into a tablet. A second later, the guy's eyes widened. "You're the Tom Hargrove? State AG Enforcement." I nodded. "Retired director, 22 years. Daniels let out a low whistle, then glanced at Linda, who was still filming, oblivious. We stepped away from the bus, and he lowered his voice. "They said you're running an unlicensed operation, maybe even contaminated soil." I couldn't help I laughed. Contaminated soil? These kids are picking apples, not digging for uranium. He cracked a smile, asked for my paperwork. I handed him a binder, permits, exemptions, lab tests, all in order. He flipped through it, nodded, and said, "You're good, sir. Sorry for the hassle." Linda lost it. She stormed over, shouting, "You're just letting him go? There are kids here. He's a hazard." Daniels held up a hand. "Ma'am, this land's not under HOA control. You got no say here." Then he grinned, just a little. "You don't know who this guy is, do you? He wrote the damn book on AG law around here." Linda's face went red, then white. She backed off, her dog yipping as she dragged it away. The kids poured off the bus, laughing, grabbing apples, and the orchard felt alive again. But I knew this wasn't the inch be back, and she'd come harder. 2 weeks later, she did. Another morning, another pair of cops, these ones younger, edgier, with a citation for unlicensed food distribution. Linda was there again, filming from the trail, probably thinking she'd finally nailed me. I showed them the same binder, mentioned my old colleague supervisor Claire, and they backed off, one of them muttering, "This is above our pay grade." But Linda wasn't done. She yelled, "He's a fraud. He's poisoning this town." I'd had enough. I walked toward her, not angry, just done. "Linda, you're on my property line. One more step, and I'm filing a restraining order." She laughed, shrill and shaky. "You think you're untouchable? Wait till people know who you really are." I raised an eyebrow. "You mean the guy who wrote the laws that keep farmers like me from drowning in your red tape? That guy." Her jaw dropped, and for the first time, she looked scared not of me, but of the truth she hadn't seen coming. The real turning point came at an HOA meeting I finally attended. I walked in with my binder, wearing my old state jacket, and the room went quiet. Linda was at the podium, mid-rant about unregulated land use, when she saw me. I took the mic, laid out my credentials not to brag, but to set the record straight. I passed out copies of my permits, maps, a letter from the county confirming my rights. If you push this, I said, you're breaking state law, and I'll file an injunction to stop you. The new HOA president, a tech bro named Ryan, looked like he'd swallowed a lemon. Linda tried to speak, but the room wasn't hers anymore. People clapped not loud, but real. Later, a guy named Carl slipped me a note. Thanks for not yelling. That's how we know you're serious. Linda's last move was a lawsuit against the HOA after they voted her out, claiming she'd been defamed. It crashed and burned when her own emails leaked nasty stuff about burying me in paperwork and faking contamination claims. The local paper ran a story, Willow Creek HOA's power grab falls apart. And suddenly, I wasn't just Tom with the apples. I was the guy who'd stood up to a bully and won. Neighbors came back Ellie with her cookies, the church group with their bake sale. I turned the orchard into a community trust, open for school trips, picnics, even a winter lantern walk where kids carried glowing paper stars through the trees. It wasn't about me, Anna Marie, it was about us. Sitting on my porch now, a mug of cider in hand, my old dog Rusty snoring at my feet, I think about how close I came to letting Linda's noise drown out my peace. I didn't win by shouting or fighting dirty. I won by standing still, letting the truth grow like those apple trees, deep and unshakable. Linda's gone now, moved to some gated condo where I bet she's already eyeing the HOA board. But here in Willow Creek, we're planting again flowers, friendships, trust. The orchard's quiet tonight, the kind of quiet that feels like home. So what do you think? Ever dealt with someone like Linda, trying to control everything? Or been in a spot where you had to stand your ground without losing who you are? Drop a comment. Tell me your story. I am all ears. And if you like this one, hit that subscribe button. There's more where this came from.